Oops, what am I doing?
I'm working on it. Here we go. Here's Howard. I gotta let Leslie know. Oh, here we go.
Here we are.
It wasn't working for me. I don't know what's going on.
I can see you. Can you see me?
I can see you, yeah. And Howard, and here comes Howard, and Leslie should be close. Leslie, you're on mute. Howard, you're on mute too.
Okay, right now I'm on the phone. I canceled out of the computer because I wanted to start fresh to host. So it's going to take me a minute to catch back up on the computer because we have David here too, and we can't see the phone as easily as if I can get back in.
Leslie, we're gonna have to, yeah. We're gonna have to practice this sometime and figure out what's going on. I logged in with the login.
Who's the host? Who's the host?
I think I'm hosting. I don't know how I did it. I logged out and I double clicked on the. I logged in with the credentials, the login and the password. I joined and nobody was showing up. And Leslie was like, Leslie said she tried. So I closed it and I double clicked on the meeting and it came right up. Leslie, did you assign host to me or did that just happen automatically?
It just happened automatically. I was in the waiting room and I couldn't figure out, remember I'd offered to host it and I couldn't figure out how to do that without signing out of the waiting room and starting over. So.
All right, all's well that ends well. We'll have to practice.
I kept you on the phone, but David's here and if you want to just listen on your phone.
No,
I'm here.
Everybody's here.
Yeah.
David's in.
Right, but he's on his phone and it's echoing and I'm on my phone.
Oh,
I'm trying to get back in as. He can stay on his phone, but one of us will have to turn the volume off in just a minute. It's pretty good, George. It says 6:30, 6:35.
I started at 6:15, just so you know. So
And I
did not go well.
Well, we're doing better than last time.
Well, Leslie, if you don't mind, before our next meeting, maybe a half hour earlier, you
I
and I
would
can just,
love to.
yeah, just make sure we can do it right.
I got up the hill in time.
Can
With
you?
us, you had another 20 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay.
not.
George and I, David and I are staying on our separate phones. Are you getting an echo from me?
I'm getting an echo.
Okay, so I can mute. Okay, let me go mute myself.
You're the leader of the pack.
She is.
Well, maybe we're doing okay with the echo.
Well, David muted.
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
No, but we need David too. It's not bothering you guys. It's not bothering me. Is it okay with you, David?
I'll just move her.
And look over your shoulder.
I hear you.
Okay, so we're okay
The
now.
meeting,
We're
yeah.
okay.
And if I somehow
Okay.
get on otherwise
Lost David.
on the computer.
Okay.
Maybe we should start meeting in person.
There's that too, because I did get a lesson from Melissa Makepeace O'Neill and how to do a hybrid meeting downstairs with the owl and the big TV. Once again, it would need quite a bit of practice, but I think we could do it.
Or we could just do all of us and we could just all show up, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
But it's nice to offer it online and it gets recorded that way. That sort of thing.
I don't know.
I'm not sure we need to be recorded.
I go to the finance committee, they're recording us, and sometimes I wish they wouldn't.
Wait till they make the movie.
It could be a TV series. Why not?
Well, we could. I'm 2 minutes from town hall.
Yeah, it's not a
So
problem.
am I.
Anyway,
So David is not on my screen.
No, but I'm
No.
here with Leslie.
And eventually he will be. I'm starting from scratch on the computer while we go through the meeting, when you guys
perfect.
do things.
So should I open the meeting now, or do you want to keep
Absolutely.
doing this?
No, no,
I-
no. Had enough of this.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'm going to open the meeting, and present are board members April Stein and George Arvanitis, Chairman Howard Spetner, Assessors Clerk Leslie Bracebridge, and Administrative Assessor David Burgess. The first item on the meeting is to review and approve the minutes from the April 6th, I'm half blind, damn, April 16th and May 6th meetings. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
I
Yep.
did.
Okay, any
Looks
issues with them?
fine to me.
So I was curious. I read these earlier today. There was one thing I'm trying to remember in the first minutes, the April minutes, you talked about you were going to call RG, I forget, RGR, is that their name?
RRG.
RRG, right? And you were going to call them. And then in the last meeting, you reported to us that they were not going to be able to take on.
Oh, Howard called Roy Bishop, not RRG.
Okay.
Yeah, but he knows that, but he's asking about RRG specifically,
Right, because
right?
RRG,
And
I'm
about
trying to
David.
remember when we were informed or when I learned that RRG could not take on our town.
I think that was at the last meeting.
Well, that, I know that I heard it at the April 7th meeting with Gabe.
Okay. So
David
if
was
you look-
there in person.
Yes, I told you at that time that RRG probably wouldn't, but if you wanted to call him, it was.
Oh, I get it. So this note says, David said someone needs to formally call RRG. So we knew we just needed to contact them and hear. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I
Which, as
have
far
nothing
as I
else
know,
on-
has not.
Right. Got it. Oh,
Which, as
okay.
far as I know, has not happened. I have not done that.
Okay,
I
that's
kinda
fine. And
stopped.
I'm not even questioning that. What I was just wondering about
Okay.
was these minutes and what that meant. Now I get it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm fine with the minutes.
And,
me too.
okay, so I move that we approve both sets of minutes.
I'll second that.
I vote aye.
Aye. Arvanitis, aye.
And Stein, aye.
Okay, the motion passes. The third item on the agenda are old business updates. What are old business updates?
Well, I had come to realize that lots of times questions come up from old minutes. And I thought, oh, well, good. I can turn off my phone.
Oh, there you are.
There we go.
Wait a minute, I got to get rid of this Zoom here. Just throw it in the toilet.
I feel that way sometimes.
Get my phone off.
There we are. Oh, that's much better. You're muted, Leslie.
You're muted,
Leslie.
Leslie.
You're muted.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Okay. I started putting that on in case somebody wanted to comment on something that was in the minutes, that wasn't on the agenda to be discussed tonight, because I've noticed sometimes people did want more information or to discuss something.
Well, I appreciate that because that's certainly something we do in other committees. People see
Yeah.
something in the minutes and it triggers a thought and then they want to talk about it.
Well, it's on our mind because we may forget by later.
Probably will, yes.
So I think we resolved tonight's little discussion so far. Was there any? And so that's why it's there. I don't know if that's okay with you, Howard, if anybody else wants to ask any other questions.
Not
I
today,
have
but
nothing.
Harvard, would you be okay with leaving that and letting Leslie do that after our minutes in each meeting? Because there will be times when we have a question and want to follow up, we'll approve the minutes, but somebody's going to want to talk about something in the minutes that, as Leslie said, is not on the agenda.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to approve or deny the motor vehicle excise tax abatements. Anything? What?
I'm sorry. There,
Okay, I'll do it again.
I was expanding our screen. That approve, deny motor vehicle excise tax abatements. You'd asked me to put that before the accountant reports so that you could approve them, and then the accountant reports would be in the correct order. But it does bring up for me the question. It was in February 21st, 24 that you guys gave office staff authorization to move forward with motor vehicle excise tax abatements to keep things rolling for everybody. And then you would just, if you had any questions from the accountant's report, you would come in or ask me at the meeting. So that's been a whole year, and I would feel more comfortable if you reauthorized at least annually, just to say, yeah, it's okay, keep going.
Okay, so to recapitulate, I was only concerned about the exemptions, personal exemptions. I just wanted to see those before they went on. I wanted to see those before we approved the accountant reports. As far as the motor vehicle abatements, it's fine. I don't think we can reauthorize those if that's what you want to do. That's fine with me.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, so I move that we authorize, and let me make sure I get the wording on this right, that we authorize Leslie to put
Office
our
staff.
signatures, office staff to put signature stamps on motor vehicle abatements.
I'll second
That's
that.
it.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and we've done that. And the abatements that we have to authorize tonight are actually on the accountant reports, right?
Correct.
Okay, and those are from April 2024 and April 2025. And there's like between 1 and 3. One of them has 1 and one has 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And out of curiosity, why are we doing April 2024 now?
People have up to 3 years to file for an abatement. This was one that came in. Well, actually, it's a little bit more complex than that. If you want to hear the long story, it's that the statute, the Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024 put a new authorization on that veterans with 100% disability could receive 100% exemption off of one motor vehicle excise tax. It did not require a local authorization at town meeting. It just went into effect. That was in August of 24. So the one gentleman, there's 2 gentlemen who qualify. One applied for both, so we gave him we gave him 4 months, September. We gave him September to December on 24, and then we gave him the full year for calendar 25. So in some cases, people just wait because they didn't realize they could apply for an abatement. But this is an exemption, and it's because of the HERO Act.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about these abatements?
No, I've reviewed.
No.
Okay. Okay, I move that we approve both the motor vehicle abatements from April 24 and April 25.
And I will second.
Okay, I vote aye.
Arvanitis, aye.
Einstein, aye.
The motion passes. Okay. Item number 6. So Leslie, in your email, this is to review and approve the motor vehicle excise tax commitment. Leslie, you said that there in,
The odd
we don't have
months.
one. We don't have one, right? Is that-
No,
Okay.
I
fine.
had it on the agenda just in case, but none
Okay.
came in, so we're good.
Okay, okay, so we're good. Item number 7, review, edit, approve, deny any chapter 61, 61A, 61B applications, liens and lien releases. Do we have anything?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. So we're caught up for now.
Let me
On
just
these.
say that that is something that I want to get my finalized list current with 2025 for 2026. And I expect within the next month that'll easily get done, but those are still hanging. There's
Okay.
lots that come up in January, February range to do.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is to review, edit, and approve the annual town meeting handout. Are you talking about what you prepared for the HEROES Act, or are you talking about something else?
No, we're talking about that, and I apologize when I replied. I just hit reply, I thought, but it went to everybody, which it shouldn't have, in violation of open meeting law. But anyway, I did get all 4 items on because I'd forgotten I'd made a long version and then I squashed it down to a shorter one. So there was room, even if I didn't adjust top and bottom margins. So we can have anywhere from 1 to 4 question answers or any others that anyone wants added.
Okay, I have a question, which is that when I opened up the revised document that just sent us with all 4 of them on it,
Mhm.
it went over into a second page. Is that
Oh.
not, is that?
It doesn't on my, when I print it,
Okay,
and I can
fine, fine,
adjust
fine.
the margins if it does,
So it just has something to do with the way my program opened it up. Okay, good.
something like that, yeah.
Okay, so has everybody had, so that's just one document, that one handout that we're talking about.
1 page,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, the one page. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the frequently
Okay.
FAQs at the bottom.
Yes,
Okay, so does anybody have any comments, questions, revisions, anything on that?
I have one comment. On the FAQs number 4, I think we need to maybe be a little more specific. The exemption benefits cannot reduce the property tax to less than 10%. So 10% of the full property tax for the property?
that
That's
is,
true. That's it. Yes, that's right. And we should spell it out.
Yeah, I think that, it's not clear, I think, to the average person.
Can you fit that in 10% of whatever,
Yeah,
10% of the full tax or whatever, the assessed tax.
I can fit it in. I had said I would like to make one comment about it. I don't know of anyone who is 10% of what would equal $1,000 plus the cost of
Yeah,
living,
right. It would have to be a very low
$2,000,
value property.
which there isn't. So I thought it might just, I had dismissed it in my mind the moment I read it the first time. I thought, well, that's not going to apply to anybody. So it could make it more confusing to people when we know that nobody is going to be affected by it.
Well, Leslie, I would just say, if you read it now, it's confusing.
Yes, so we can
Because-
either change it, but I'm wondering if it'll make the voters think, oh my gosh, you mean if I vote for this, someone's gonna get whatever, all but 10% off of whatever tax the voter pays? They might think, wow, that's a lot of money.
Are you thinking we should just eliminate it?
I
Number
am,
4?
yeah,
I mean, this is an FAQ, and that's really not an FAQ. That's just a statement.
it is.
I mean,
And if
Well, the
someone asks
question
the
that-
question, we've got the answer, but who's gonna ask that question?
well, somebody might say, are there limits to the amount of benefit that I can get? What is this
Yes.
exemption? Is there a limit to my total exemption? And the
Well,
limit would
here's,
be,
okay. So in terms of this, in terms of the numbers and how the numbers work, okay? And I don't know, sorry. So this applies to everything that's in section 22, all those different veterans benefits, A through whatever, A through H, I guess, except for the one that it can apply to, which is the 100% in the event of a death, all of the others it applies to. Now, here's a question. So I know that some of them are $400. Are all of them $400 or are any of them $1,000?
Excuse me. Is that for me to answer?
It's for anybody who knows the answer.
I know the answer.
Go ahead.
There's a
Tell
chart.
us.
There's a chart. In our particular town, we have something like 8 at $400 and 2 at 1,000, which would be double to $2,040 if you had both of the exemption, if the town approved both of them. And that's a good chunk of money to get $2,040 off of your income tax or your real estate tax. But there is a whole chart. It's on page. It's on a page of our one of the last pages of our Course 101 book on chapter 7 on exemptions. And I have have it ready, the whole list to have ready for whoever is speaking at town meeting, because they do range from 400 if you lose one arm and one leg. It's something like 750 if you lose both legs. It's, it's too much detail.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to summarize, answering my question, they're not all at $400.
No.
Okay, they're not all at $400, and if one of them is at least one of them is at $1,000.
Right.
Two
are at $1,000. Okay, so the answer is that there is a maximum benefit of $2,040. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
As a ordinary town citizen, or even as the chairman of the Board of Assessors, I actually have no idea whether anybody's taxes are below $2,040 or not.
No, not unless it's just a piece of land.
And that
And you
doesn't
can't get
help.
it for a piece of land.
Yeah.
Okay, but I, an ordinary person who knows nothing but has to show up at town meeting and vote on this thing, I have no idea whether or not anybody's taxes are below $2,040. I can imagine that somebody has something at the lake that's worth $100,000 and their taxes are like $1,800. I can imagine that. It might not be true, but I can imagine it. Okay. Everybody following?
Yeah.
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 Okay. And therefore, I, as an ordinary person, have no idea whether somebody's taxes could be reduced below 10% of their assessed value.
So,
right?
So where are you leading with this? Are
Yeah.
you thinking we need to have?
Where I'm going with this is I think we need that sentence that nobody's going to have their taxes reduced to zero.
I won't take, it's not a hill that I want to die on. I just think bringing it up
Good.
adds more confusion because most people think of their own taxes. Oh my gosh, I got to come up with $6,000 this year to $20,000. But I hear you, Howard. And
Okay.
I'm not a voter and I don't care.
You're not a voter?
I'm not a voter on this. I'm a voter, but not tonight.
Okay.
Your
So, I mean,
perspective is important.
Yes.
yeah. The reason I put it in there was that it occurred to me. That's all.
So
Well, it's in the GIS, the GLS handout. They say it, and I just thought, nope, not going there.
I don't think it'll do any harm leaving in and see what happens
There you go.
Yeah.
at the time meeting.
well, again,
Okay.
I'm wondering if this is a FAQ format. We need to put in we got the answer, but we don't have the question. And so I guess,
the question. Okay.
The question I'm thinking we should maybe write, is there a limit to the amount of exemptions that you can take? And the answer is you can take exemptions only to the extent that your property tax is 10% or greater of the total property tax. I don't know
Yeah.
the right wording.
So
Okay.
one possible wording here was, can anyone's property tax be reduced to 0?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, it was limited to 10%.
No,
I like
yeah.
that question.
Okay, yeah, but Leslie, is there room for another line for a question?
Well,
Can
no,
you
it's
do
not.
that?
No,
or-
you've already answered it.
No, but he's saying, will it push this into a second page?
Oh,
Yeah, can we?
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
right.
the problem with that question is the clause 22D that Howard referred to at the beginning. Yes, it does reduce one person's tax in our community to 0.
Yeah, but that's not dependent.
Well,
on
yes, that's true,
Right,
but the,
it's,
That's separate. They get
but,
that
but
allowance.
the question, that's true, but the question that we're voting on, the question that the town is being asked to vote on, will not reduce anybody's taxes to 0. They're already reduced to 0.
And we
Right.
get fully reimbursed for it.
I know. But it just one question brings up another and another, and trying to explain it gets pretty wordy for me. Maybe I would defer to Howard to write it up, or George to write it up the way they want to see it, that last part. I was trying to keep it simple, and
yeah.
I think until you start to write it,
Oh, I
you
think,
don't realize.
No, it states very clearly, nobody's will be less than 10%, no exemptions. I'm not sure why. we
my
need
only
to-
question is 10% of what? Less than 10%.
10% of the full tax.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. I would just want to put that on there to
Exemption
define the
can have
10%.
It's less than. Isn't that what it's? I don't know.
Is what, right?
You already interpret it that way, but would the
Yeah.
average person interpret it
Would
that
they?
way?
Exemption benefits cannot reduce the property tax to less than 10% of the property tax
Of the total property, of your total,
of your total,
Total bill,
of
your
the
total
total.
property
Of
tax.
you put in the total, less than 10% of the total.
Is
Yeah,
there a
that's all I'm
limit
saying is we
to,
need, I just don't
clause-
know, people are gonna say 10% of what, it doesn't say.
is there a limit to the exemption amounts?
We could even leave the question out and just expand this.
Clauses 22I and 22J. And the answer is the exemption benefits cannot reduce the property tax to less than 10%.
We should probably just use that wording.
That's why I just left it as a statement, even though it's under frequently asked questions.
So that is the
That's-
wording.
Yeah.
Okay.
The exemption benefits cannot reduce the property tax to less than 10% of the full tax, and forget it having a question.
Yeah,
You can
I'm
also,
fine with that. I'm fine with that. Just add those words and be done.
can you drop the whole FAQ thing and just put them down as 4 different bullet points?
Well, you'd have
Does that work?
to change some of the wording. Assessors overlay
Really, some of them,
account will fund the, I don't have a problem with it not having a question on number 4. I think people will understand.
Yeah.
So
And
I would be fine with just adding the wording at the end and being done.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make
I don't
this
think
more
people are gonna say, oh,
complicated.
there's not a question there. They're gonna
Then
see
we're
an
not
answer.
voting for it.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I could just eliminate the 4 and make one long sentence at the bottom. These exemption benefits will not reduce the property tax, and will not reduce the tax to less than the full amount,
10% of the bill.
10% of the full amount. How do you like that one? Because it's
I
not a
like that
question,
wording. I think we should just leave it as number 4.
and leave
Yeah,
it as,
Yeah,
I don't.
I
we
think we're
don't-
overthinking this. And I'm partly to blame, I know.
no, I want you guys to,
I think that's
Have
fine.
what
As
you
long as
want.
it's clear, it doesn't matter how we say it or what we do, as long as it's clear. And that was my only
Yeah.
point. That was my only point was
Yeah.
that piece could be more clear.
I'm
But I
gonna
like
just
what you
check
said,
someone's
10% of the
calling.
full property tax. and be done.
Shutesbury Assessor's Office, this is Leslie.
Howard, do you agree with that?
I do agree with it. I would, I just want to, Leslie's on the
Sorry,
phone. right?
Maria,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
just,
sure what
I was
kind
wondering what
of
you were
Okay.
thinking. or
Okay.
what-
I'm in
Yeah,
the
I was
middle
just-
of
I wasn't
a
gonna-
meeting. Could I take your number and call you back either later tonight or tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 1880, and you're calling about, go ahead. Okay. Yes. Yes, it would be a separate envelope. Town of Shutesbury. Yeah. About within a month. Within a month. Okay. All right. And feel free to call back tomorrow if you think of, if that doesn't fully answer your question. Bye-bye. I only answered in case there was someone trying to get into Zoom and couldn't. I apologize for taking your
Well, I've
time.
been
Not a
getting-
problem.
Yeah, just so you know, Leslie, I have been getting the notices that somebody's trying to get into the meeting. So
Really?
if somebody was trying to enter our meeting, I would see it.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's
okay.
true. But we do know you and I need practice to feel confident about it.
I do,
Yeah.
yes.
And we're
All
serving
right.
the public. All right,
All right. So my
Next.
understanding is you're gonna leave 3 and as it is, and 4, I will do some little wording that tries to make it simple.
Well, I think you said the wording. I think we can all agree to the wording right now, right?
Yeah.
Less than 10%
Yes.
of the full property tax.
Well, I'm thinking it should actually say the clause 22I and 22J cannot reduce benefits to less than 10% of the full property tax.
that's fine.
Yeah,
And that, you can still squish that up maybe, so it
Yep.
still stays on one page.
And I like saying clause 22I and J
I like that.
because in my mind, I know that, or we all know that other veterans' benefits can be reduced to 0, and I don't want to.
That's right,
that's a very important point.
that's right,
And we are addressing the 2 articles that we're talking about, 22I and 22J.
that's right.
Yes.
I think that's a good solution.
Yep.
Okay. So
Okay.
in case we have a color preference, I'll give it to Brennan as we've discussed it. If we have a color preference,
I'd
I
let him
have
be
no
the
color
color
preference.
coordinator because he's going to be the one who knows which departments are doing what colors, and he can make sure that, I'd hate to pick a color that some other department picked.
okay, color, it will be left up to Brennan.
Yeah, tell him, make
Yes.
sure it's not one that's already in
But,
use.
but if we don't like it, they'll be
Yeah.
held to pay.
Yeah, we got
Yes.
veto power.
Thank you, everybody, for your help with that. I appreciate
No,
Okay,
it.
thank
so-
you for doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I move that we approve the revised handout for town meeting.
Second,
Okay, I vote aye.
Arvanitis, aye.
in Stein, I.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is to review and possibly approve or recommend to the select board the Roy Bishop Associates contract. So the question in my mind is do we want to sign this at all? Do we want to sign this and not look for a new administrative assessor, or do we want to sign this and continue to look for a new administrative assessor? Those are the 3 options as I understand it. And so Leslie, at the select board meeting, you raised the issue that you felt that that just having Roy as a contractor and not hiring somebody would not would not work, okay, because you felt that things were actually not working now.
Well,
Is that true? Do you feel that there are problems with
That's
the way
not
the
what
office?
this, that's not what this contract is about.
Howard, this is only about the services that Roy is already producing. He's coming up with the evaluations of the electric utilities, and he's doing the basic interim revaluation. This has got nothing to do with the day-to-day running of the office.
Okay,
That
And,
$2,000 or $3,000.
okay. So in terms of the overall running, the day-to-day operations of the office, that has not been working well? Is that the problem here?
Well,
I could speak further to that, but why don't you
I
first
think we're jumping the
approve
gun
this?
on that.
Yeah, why
Oh,
don't
we're
you
jumping-
first
okay.
decide whether or not to approve this contract, which simply gets the tax rate set for us. It doesn't do anything about day-to-day operations.
And it
That's
is,
Okay.
only,
Let me, okay, in terms of getting the tax rate set, that includes valuing utilities, but it also involves valuing all the other personal property in town, the second homes and the other businesses, right?
Yes, but Roy does not enter that in the system. We do that by ourselves. He doesn't
Okay.
do any of that. He doesn't do any of the new growth at the moment. Or any of
Okay.
all he does is do a sales analysis and values their utilities, and that's what that $3,000 is for.
and that's the
Okay.
same thing he's doing in the current fiscal year.
Right.
Correct.
So we're just renewing his contract for that piece of the work.
correct.
Right.
Okay. In the letter that he sent, he said he did mention personal property, including utilities, implying that there was more, he was going to do more personal property than just utilities. He was going to do all personal property.
Now, Howard, there's the list of tasks that sounds like he's doing more that came with the contract. And that's not to be confused with a separate letter that talks about assessing services. In that, he says the administration of the office, Leslie's doing fine with the administration of the office. That I would love to talk about further with you,
Yeah.
but that's not what the contract is about. And so I suggest we first decide about the contract before you move on to talking about the running of the administration of the office.
Yeah, and again, this contract is just for one piece of assessing
One
that we've been having
small
done for years.
Right.
It's one small piece that is way beyond my skill level. I'm not saying it's small that way, but I
Right.
am saying that it's a separate letter. He says,
Yes.
where he says that my wife Diane is retiring.
Right.
That's totally different
That's
from,
related to
the
the
tax
situation
rate
with
set.
David leaving.
Right.
yes. And the contract doesn't even cover that one question that looms in my mind is we're just getting our means tested abatements applications. Does Roy,
Roy wouldn't do that. He's going to do the basic paperwork for you. You'll figure that out. That's easy. I'll show you how to do that.
that's easy, guys. David's going to show me how.
Okay. All right. No problem.
No problem there. Okay,
Well-
so David's saying just sign the contract, I think is what he's saying.
Well, if you want to sign the contract, but all I'm saying is that contract is only for the services he has produced in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And they're
that's,
well beyond my skills.
yeah, there's no question that nobody else is going to be able to do that. Roy's been our guy.
Not for that price.
Ken Holmberg
No.
even used him to do it too, way back when.
Wow.
This
Oh,
isn't
really?
something new.
No.
Oh, I didn't know
It
that.
got more expensive with solar, but
Okay. So in terms of the personal property besides the utilities, is Roy going to do that, or is David going to do that before he leaves? Or
I will do the
Either.
26th
Roy's doing it
before I
now.
leave.
okay,
Okay.
you're going to do all the 26 personal property apart from the utilities you're going to do.
And the building permits, Leslie and I are setting up the time to do that, yes.
Okay. Okay,
and
fine.
David
So
will enter them.
okay. Okay, so in that case, it sounds like we should approve we should recommend that the select board approve the contract.
Absolutely. So I'll second that.
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess I moved it. Okay, I vote aye.
Arbornitis, aye.
And Stein, aye.
Okay, so the motion passes. So we're going to recommend that the select board approve the contract. The second item on the next item on the agenda is discuss the future of the administrative assessor position and next steps to fill the vacancy.
Yes.
That's where you're getting under the letter that Roy sent you
Yeah.
about the assessing service memorandum.
Mhm.
And my only concern there is, first off, he hasn't given you any values to do it. And he's not talking about doing things in the day-to-day running of the office. He's saying to you, if you want to do a cyclical inspection, it'll be $25 per parcel. If we had to do them all, that's $20,000 over the next 5 years to get them done.
3 years. We will want them 3 years, yes?
Oh, it's 5 now.
3 years to the reval.
Well,
We're
the law says we only have to inspect them every 10 years, but we've already had a few bit of grace. So we're probably going to have 5 years until the next cyclical reinvent.
You mean 5 years worth?
Yeah,
I
revaluation.
mean, half.
Which is
Okay.
FY 28. We're all on the same page here.
Okay. And
Well,
then
although
he's
we have no idea how much has actually been done. We don't know how much, we don't
we
know how
can
many
run
are
it-
left.
we can run it- there are reports that can be run to show us what that is.
Right, okay,
Yep.
sure.
He is not addressing doing splits on the properties. He's not addressing doing anything with abatements or exemptions. He's not doing any, particularly exemptions, analyzing them each year, which is a service function that Leslie does, but she still has to run it past the person who's in charge and the board. But to say that it's right, otherwise it's not fair just to leave all that on her.
Mhm.
And from what I can read of Roy's report, Diane, who is an excellent assessor and a wonderful person, would not be able to do that until after the 1st of January. If I had, my suggestion at the moment to you is that you could put out an advertisement and the MMA and the MAAO and see if there's anybody interested in the job first, where you're going. And the sooner you got it out, the better.
And Jackie Borden has said that she would circulate it with Franklin County Assessors Association. There's a lot more than David listed that goes on day to day that I often turn to him for.
Mhm.
And I don't want to get too far off topic, but I was hired as a clerk for 12 hours a week to be a worker bee for an administrative assessor at 20 hours a week to get some more of that stuff that David's listing done, which is only scratching the surface. And I've been making a list of the things that are propped up that I do. And I'm working close to, Becky and I had figured out that I averaged 20 hours a week last year. And that was trying to do both my 12 hours and the 20-hour position. And every time we add in a new exemption, everything expands. I'm not getting the things done that I'm supposed to. I'm barely keeping ahead. I donate a lot of hours because my brain is slow. If you folks will make a serious effort at trying to get an administrative assessor in here who could be at least 20 hours, then I'm glad to keep going at the pace that I'm going. But I am 75 and I can say it, you can't. I'm slower and slower. I've got more end of life things that I want to do personally. And as long as we're all working toward getting somebody who understands this job in this office, I want to keep going. If you say, oh no, Leslie's fine, we'll just make do with Leslie, then I'll leave right along with David and you guys can run the office. But truthfully, I have been working harder than I ever intended to. I love it. I've been learning more than I ever thought I could learn. But I wish I could keep going. If I was
No.
30, I would ask for the position, but I'm not 30.
Well, I hear you, Leslie. I totally support what you're saying. It seems like the ads should be, normally it would be the town administrator would be getting these ads out. And I don't know if she's started to do that.
She is swamped. She is swamped.
Well-
She has told me that.
Hi. Okay,
Well, we have,
So
we,
we're on, all we
right.
need though from the select board is the go-ahead, which I don't think I think Rita understood the contract just as Howard did.
yeah,
And that's why she sent us back to discuss this.
yeah,
And this is the right place to be discussing it.
yeah,
And what
Yes.
we need to tell them for sure by their meeting on Tuesday, the 20th, is that, yes, we need to run an ad as many places as we
Yes.
can. Yes, we need a search committee. And then in an ideal world, we'll find someone, hire somebody. That person I can start orienting to the day-to-day stuff here, the pilots for the solar and Sirius and Temenos. All those things get lost if the information isn't
And they're
passed
important.
along.
and
They're
this is what
important.
And then
funds our
when-
town. I mean, this is.
Then when that stuff gets handled, when he or she is confident with that stuff, then I say, okay, if I'm still if my brain's still functioning, I can be the clerk, but I might just say, now when you're ready, please fill me in, fill in my position. And
Yeah,
maybe I'll be gone by June 30, 26, but
So
I'll
I
be
just-
gone on the 25th, the June 30, 25, if you say, no, we don't need to do that. Just isn't gonna work.
right.
The town needs somebody.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead.
well, I
okay,
just
so
wanted,
it sounds to me like, in a way, there are two separate issues here. And they're getting a little bit conflated. One is that we need to replace David and the time that he's been putting in. But David has only been working, correct me if I'm wrong, about 5 hours a week on this job?
Yeah, I'm not getting the cyclical inspections done. And Leslie and I are
Right.
putting aside 2 days to do building permits, so.
But he's also
Okay.
not, I am assuming the things that Ken used to do, that Kevin used to do, they would have been reviewing the
Well-
exemptions. They would have
Right.
been approving them. They would
Right.
have been setting the agendas.
And
Yeah.
this
They
is
would
not
just
what,
be saying, Leslie, do
They've
this
been-
in your 12 hours, and what's left, they do.
right.
So I wanted to ask, and David, I know you've worked for a number of towns. In a town that isn't outsourcing, and historically, what I'm hearing, I think, is towns used to have an administrative assessor who worked the lion's share of the work, and they had a clerk to handle a lot of, the non so technical stuff, which is what Leslie, I think you said, is what you did when you were first hired.
Which Leslie should be doing, yes.
So
Right.
this is that model is a standard model historically for municipalities.
Right.
So then it makes sense for us to hire. I agree with what Leslie's saying. I think we should move forward with trying to find an administrative assessor, get that person in here as soon as possible. Obviously, there won't be overlap with David because June 30th is not that far away.
No,
But Leslie, if you've done so much and you understand so much more than you used to, you can certainly, and with Roy and David, always a phone call away, because David, I know you've offered to, always be there. The sooner we can find this person, I think the better off we are. But
It was,
the only thing I'm wondering about is we do have an offer from Roy Bishop. If we find this person, we can move forward. Would Roy be okay with starting and getting us going? And if we don't find somebody, he can at least get us through the tax recap. But if we find somebody, he's okay stepping back. I mean, how can we arrange that?
Well, I think if we sign a contract with Roy, we have to honor that contract, which
Yes.
is, the contract is for $3,000, okay? The job is what, we're budgeted $35,000 plus fringe benefit, right? Fringe is separate.
Yes. That's right. That's just
Okay.
base salary.
Yeah, I don't see
So
that.
let's say,
Question is,
so I'm just
the
going to say
question is, does Roy
40,000.
have somebody he can put in the office?
Does
Say
Roy
that
what?
again?
Can Roy put somebody in the office for you is the question.
Well, that's a question, but well, yeah, that's a question. But if we're going to hire, but the way we're talking, according to what George and April just said, we would first try and find an administrative assessor for the 20-hour a week position. And
Yes.
if we are going to go do that, then we don't want to go to Roy and say, can you put somebody in the office? If we're going to go to Roy and if we're going to ask Roy to put somebody in the office, I see your hand. If we're going to ask Roy to put somebody in the office, we should do it now.
Okay.
If we want to know whether Roy can essentially fill the administrative assessor position, we should ask him.
Okay. I want to ask you something, the three of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you are willing to go ahead now and put out and get an ad out for the person ASAP, because when I talked to Becky before she left and give her the time that I was leaving, I expected her to do the advertising and all the rest of it. I will hang on until the end of July to get that done, if that's what you want. To give you're not going to get it done in the 6 weeks we're talking about now.
Mhm.
So you would need to get it advertised as soon as possible.
Yes,
Okay.
So what do we need to do to get that to happen? That's where we're
the
stuck.
advertisement.
Yeah, that seems like, Haley's saying she doesn't have the time to do it. My
Well, how
hands,
does that get done? I mean, does anybody know?
We
How do
were
we- how do
moving
we-
forward
how do we
with
hire
it at
people?
I'm sorry.
No,
Go
go
for it.
Leslie, please.
How do we
We were
hire
moving-
people? That's what I want to know. How does the town do that?
well, we were moving forward until the last meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were moving forward with it. First, I want to address Howard's question. No, we still need to sign that contract for Roy. We have been using Roy ever since we got the solar property. There's a statewide lawsuit. I'm just generalizing. I'm sure I'm not saying it absolutely 100%, but part of the reason we hired Roy is because there was this lawsuit between utilities and utilities and all the towns. And by hiring this specialist, we got away from getting into a direct ATB contest with a utility. We need
Well-
Roy. He's our specialist. That's aside from whether we get someone in, if we wait till Diane in December when she truly retires. But our understanding at the March 27 meeting, we thought, oh, good, we can just hire a company to run the whole show, which would have been fine with me. And Leslie could have been maybe the face at the door for the 12 hours a week. But it turns out that Diane's not going to do that either. That letter says she already answers questions for 2 or 3 towns or 3 or 4 towns. That's not getting the work done. That we had Ken, who was ill and retiring. Then we had Kevin, who worked brand new as an office administrator. He'd done valuing. He'd never done office administration. Then he took a full-time job in Holliston, I think it was, and went to weekends in Shutesbury. And I won't say how many hours I thought he was putting in, but the hours were not happening. And then we went a year without anybody except David, who kindly answered my questions voluntarily. Then we got David for 5 hours a week and we thought we'd struck gold, but it's just not the amount of time that's needed to run an office. We've been just limping along.
It
I hope
makes-
That's fine.
I think that you're making so much sense, Leslie. And
Thank you.
the assessor, this is critical for our town. We
can't collect revenue
we have
without
to,
it.
That's right.
If it weren't
know-
for David, we would have missed a full year of our revenue from
Yeah.
Amherst. It was Amherst that David caught up. There was a year when no one billed Amherst.
There's
Leslie.
no question. I'm totally on board with.
So the question that Howard asked, or you're asking, is how do we move forward? I'm ready. I've got a whole list of places we can advertise. All we need is for the select board to create a search committee and say, go for it. What happened at the last select board meeting is there was a misunderstanding about what Roy could offer us and was offering us. And now we've cleared that up. I
We
will
haven't,
take over.
yeah, I mean, here are a couple of things. One, I haven't done an exhaustive study of all the towns. I know that both Leverett and New Salem do not have administrative assessors.
Yes, they do.
Okay. I'm sorry.
RRG's administrative assessors in both of them.
They outsource.
They outsource.
So so you're saying RRG is the administrative assessor for those towns?
I cover Leverett with my associates.
Okay, do you put in, do you have defined office hours there?
I don't, but I've got a person who's there 8 hours a week, and one person is clerical 4 hours a week, and then has got her computer set up to accept emails all the time and phone calls from Leverett.
Okay,
And the other person who's taking over what I was doing would be doing the same as I'm supposed to be doing here.
Mhm.
Plus, that person will do the relisting of all the properties in town. And that's the same way we do it. We're doing that in Whately, Leverett, Conway, and Wendell, all around here.
okay. And is it true that Roy could not replicate those services for us?
I don't believe so. He hasn't got this. Well, he might for one town if he could hire somebody to do it.
But as he's set up, he cannot do that. He cannot be or he cannot do what RRG does for other towns. He cannot do for us. That's
I
what you're
don't
telling
believe
me,
so at the
right?
minute because it's just him and
Okay.
Alan. But I'm not going to say that he can. I'm telling you, I don't believe he can.
We
Okay.
won't know till we
And it's
talk
too
to him.
risky, I think, you know,
Well, I think we could ask him. I mean, we could find out.
we can ask him, but we've got to get the ads in the paper now. And I don't know if a search committee has to be in place for that. It's going to take a few minutes to get responses, you know.
Okay.
So if there's just a, go ahead, Leslie, you've got a question. But
No, you're right.
No, you're right.
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, that's a
except that
thumbs
what I
up.
want to say is the personnel board's definition of the search committee is a representative of the select. I don't have that in front
Finance
of me.
It's the
committee, personnel
FinCom.
board.
Finance committee and personnel. So we've got, Gabe had said all we
Right.
had to do was
Yeah,
the
you wrote this in an
assessors.
email before.
so just send, so
Yeah.
what's
So
stopping us from?
basically, we've got the committee right
Yes, we
here,
do.
just the way Gabe said it.
Yes.
So what's stopping us from just going ahead? Does the select board have to vote on approving the ad?
Tuesday.
So
Well,
Wouldn't
I
that-
think,
Normally that would have been Becky would have just done that.
she probably would have, but
Yeah.
we don't know the job descriptions anymore and who's doing
No, the
what.
job
and
description was redone.
No,
Melissa's.
I'm just saying
okay.
generally, we don't know who does what anymore.
right,
That's
right.
true.
We
So-
used to have Becky do everything and it was fine, and then it wasn't. So now
Right.
the assessor's clerk is not going to go ahead and put an ad out until the select board, the assessor, somebody tells me, go ahead.
Well, can
Right.
we authorize that? Hey, I can't believe, well, anyway. Can we
Well,
authorize?
The first thing we need to do is recommend that we take this path and make
Yes.
sure the select board knows that we recommend it so they can vote on it. And then the second thing we need to do is probably attend the select board meeting and say, okay, how do we advertise? What is the town's policy for advertising at this point in time? And chances are the answer is going to be the town administrator's always done it, and it's the town administrator's job.
But that's
I-
gonna
Well, at
take
the personnel
weeks.
board, at the
That's-
personnel board meeting that I listened to but could not contribute to.
Right.
My recollection is that at the end of it, somebody, Leslie maybe read off a list of venues, places where we could put this ad.
Mhm.
And Melissa, and somebody said, Melissa, is that all of them? And Melissa said, like, yeah, that's everything. People remember, you guys remember, April and Leslie, you were
Mhm.
both there. You remember this
That's
part of
right.
the meeting?
Yes, yes. I
Okay,
do.
so there's a list of places for this thing to go, right?
That was my list. And a few in the administrator's office.
Right.
Okay, so that's the list. That's where they go. And all we need, I think, is I think we should just ask just ask the select board to approve that we go off, that we put this ad in those places, just so we're not, usurping anybody's authority here.
So can I just,
Yes.
following what George is saying there, could you make a recommendation tonight to the select board for Tuesday night that you want to go this method, and how do you proceed with them from there to get it in the paper or wherever it's going?
Yep.
I mean, that would take your vote and it would get you moving along.
Yep.
Okay.
Basically, that's what I think I heard George saying.
Yes.
Okay, so what do we need to vote on right now?
Recommend to the select board that they authorize
Hey,
a search for an administrative assessor and appoint a search committee, because it's taken since March 27th to move this far. If we don't ask them to appoint the search committee, it might be July before that
Yeah,
part is
Right.
done.
yeah, no, Leslie, you're 100% right.
And even go forward and say, Gabriel had told us that the assessors could just interview, and as a matter of fact, we have a representative of the finance committee, we have a representative of the personnel
Right.
board, and
we
we
could
have
just do it.
a person who knows the job, and I don't know
I sit in the back, I wouldn't tell.
if David will sit in the back and not talk. I'll make up for it. And Howard could be the other person. So essentially, it's what Gabe said. It's
Yes.
just, and I
Okay,
think we should also offer, if the town administrator needs help getting the ad in the paper, which she may be, she tells me she's swamped, then I have most of it's online anymore. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Annual town meeting's coming up. I'm sure it's a lot for Haley,
Yes.
given.
And the one line that we needed to confirm with you, George, because you had said at the 27th, March 27th, that you'd look into it, was what number do we put in that salary line?
Yeah, I
We
sent that to April.
Yeah, we've
You
got
sent it.
35,000.
Okay, all right, 35,000. That way, as far as I'm concerned, we at Town Hall are armed to get going as soon as we get the Tuesday, the 20th.
Yeah, that's a fairly good salary. That's not bad.
Good. I
Do
mean,
we
it's
wanna
okay
put
if
in a
they come in
range?
under.
do you want to put in a range of, 30 to 40, depending on experience or something? Or do you just want one hard number and that's it?
Well, we generally,
maximum of 30.
yeah, up to,
Yeah, because
Okay.
we can't pay them more.
right.
That's
Okay.
what's in the budget.
So what does it mean? So we can get on the select board agenda for next Tuesday.
Well, we're already on to sign the contract, and I had been pushing with Brennan, who is kind of the first step to get to Haley because a lot of times she's in with her door closed because of what she has to do. I had put us on the agenda for last week to move forward with all of that, and Rita had said at the meeting, we'll put it off. So I think it should be there already. And it's just a matter of saying to Brennan,
Do it.
Yeah.
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 And if I can get the draft minutes ready in time, I'll give him the draft minutes. Yes.
Yes. So I'll make a motion that we move. Let's see, how do I say this? That we move forward with the select board approval to place ads.
Can't hear you.
Oh, that we move forward to place the ad for our administrator assessor in the all of the place. I'm not sure how to say that. All the places that we have. Advertise it in all appropriate
That's all
places.
you
I
have to
guess.
say.
Yeah, that's all. Just advertise it and
Yeah,
get
you don't have
somebody
to say where. But
in
what
a
you want to say is we're
ASAP.
searching. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the first
I
motion. I'll
second it.
second that.
I second it.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
I vote aye.
Overnight side.
And Stein, aye.
I'd like to make a motion. And
Okay,
I'd like to make
The
a
motion
motion that we
passes.
request the select board to appoint a search committee for the hiring of a new administrative assessor.
And would we want
I
to
second
add
it.
to that we suggest it be the three of us? because that would make it
Yeah,
much
put that in the
easier.
motion, sure. So I'll
Yeah.
make a motion that we, what did I say? That we, ask the select board to appoint April Stein as representative of the Personnel Board, George Arvanitis as a representative of the Finance Committee, and Howard I'm sorry,
Shetner.
Shepner. Sorry, I don't really know your last
I like
name.
Brady Hall.
As
Story of my life. Story of my
no.
life. Trust me.
So I'm sure it
your
is.
name's more challenging than mine. As the representative for the Board of Assessors. On
And
that
David and I
subcommittee.
could be the outstanding, the
At-large.
at-large members who know what exactly is going on here.
There's no
Yes.
way we're doing this search without you.
You didn't get away with that.
Yeah, so I appreciate your offering.
I second.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
I vote aye.
Arvanitis, aye.
And Stein, aye.
The motion passes.
Hallelujah.
Okay, I have a question, which is, so one possible scenario is that nobody applies for this job.
Likely.
It's, right, in which case we'll have to go to Plan B. And my question is, what's Plan B? We can, here are our options. We do nothing until nobody shows up and then we reconvene. Until nobody applies and then we reconvene. One option is to go to RRG now and ask them for a quote. And the second is to speak to Roy Bishop and ask him to what extent he can actually fulfill our requirements for an administrative assessor.
Okay, and all of this is interim.
I'm thinking maybe we wait at least a month before we do anything.
Where is, when's,
Why?
assuming
Why
you
wait
get
a
this
month?
paper in a week or so, would you give it 2 weeks on the paper or 3, or what do you want to give it?
I don't think there's such a thing. Well, there is the paper, but
Well, whatever.
yeah.
Well,
Whatever they use.
I mean, if we called the company that's doing it, that David works for, and they
RRG.
said, we can do it for you, then I would say, give us a quote. And if they give us a quote and we like it, I say we withdraw the ad and we tell people, sorry, Charlie, I doubt that's going to happen from what I've heard, but I would want to do that now. I mean, that could be our plan A, really, but at least we got the ball rolling on hiring. And
That's
so
what your
we
plan
know-
was.
Yeah. So we're
Right.
moving forward, and if something better comes up, we drop the ads.
Is
Yeah.
RRG
Resumes.
Should we go to RRG first or Roy first?
RRG.
RRG, because they're the ones
Okay.
who are really doing it. And Roy can be, and then Roy, if they formally inform us that they cannot take on this work.
Right. And that could give us at least a year. And maybe that would work out fine.
Well, they might say, yeah, we'll take you on, and we're set for a long,
Never.
long time. Right? I mean,
Yeah. So what
They'll
would it take?
negotiate a contract with, if they took you on, they'll come back to you every year with a contract.
okay.
Perfect. But it
Do you have
doesn't
any
work.
idea
That
how
doesn't.
much,
Go ahead.
David, do you have any idea how much RRG charges?
I do not, I haven't seen any contracts. I just know what they pay me.
Okay,
Somebody,
okay,
I
fine.
thought I heard somebody say it was about $3,000 a month.
I think that was at New Salem.
It all
Wasn't that?
depends
on the
time.
New
Gabe
Salem?
would have told us. Gabe would know.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Gabe
He was-
said 3,000 a month,
Yeah.
Okay.
and we
And
budgeted
what are they
35,000.
offering?
Yeah.
It changes, it's different by each town.
I'm sure, and they're going to want to look at how much work they're going to do here, I would think, and obviously they're going to be doing more than what David's been doing. So we'll just have to see. The other thing to remember is we did budget 35,000. If they didn't start till August 1st,
Yeah, we're going.
we'd have that covered.
Yep. We'll figure it out. That's
If
only.
What
if
about
they're
David?
3,000 a month, if they're 3,000 a month.
What?
Are we not gonna pay David because he's
Oh,
just,
I don't care if it can.
Well, we're starting June. Wait, no, this is all assuming June 1st, and David's saying that if we do end up
July 1.
going with the
July 1.
hiring, that he'd be willing to stay to July 1st. I think I
Yeah.
would.
no,
End of July.
I'm sorry, end of July. Right. Sorry. That July 1st is already what we're doing.
Right.
The,
But I think it's important also that if we do have an agreement with them, that it not then fall on Leslie to have to pick up all the slack, because I'm hearing you say you'd like to go back to being the clerk. at
I
some
would
point.
like, I would like to say that I would like to go back to being the clerk. If you wanted and could find a complete package, I've always said to everybody, even Ellen and Becky, everybody, don't worry, I will gladly stop because I have to stop sometime.
Well, if we talk to the consulting firm and they say we can do from soup to nuts, tell us what you want, then we can all regroup
Mhm.
and
That's
talk about
kind of
that.
the plan you had in March.
Yep.
You said, we're gonna hit this, all three prongs at once. We're gonna advertise, we're gonna call RRG, we're gonna call Roy Bishop, and we are going to advertise. The wording in the ad says will be filled as, it's
Yeah.
not specific for 3 weeks or something. It says it will be filled at certain time.
Yeah.
And not whenever.
Publish until filled.
Yeah, that's how it goes, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
Well-
we've
So-
resolved everything.
Well, so Howard, are you going to make that phone call?
to RRG. That's
Yes.
the phone call you're talking about, right?
Yes, because that's we
Okay.
decided is the first step. I mean, not it. We'll do that in parallel, as Leslie said, with
Right.
the hiring process. But doing that
Um,
now means we might have a better idea. Hey, if you called them this week or next week and they said, "Yeah, we definitely can help you out," and they seem reasonable, we can even not even do the ad or the search. So ASAP, I
Yeah.
Should we? Do we?
that's
do
what
we-
we've been agreeing
if-
to since March 27th.
Should we? I'm thinking we ought to maybe at least give Roy the chance to respond to this, because it sounds like, because the impression that I got from the letter is that he would like to be our full service assessor. And there's a question in our minds as to whether or not he can do it. I think
That's
that
not how I saw it.
That's not how I
Look at
saw
that.
it either. He was
Look
probably
at that.
you don't think
doing
you don't
search.
you don't think that Roy is offered. You don't think Roy would like to be our full service assessor.
I don't
No.
think that's what he offered us.
The letter
Well, there's a lot.
says, I believe the administration of your office is in good hands with Leslie.
Right.
Mhm.
Certainly, we are available at no extra fee to provide telephone and email support for assessing questions. Between David's work, Leslie's administration, and our valuation work, completion of the FY26 interim year values should bring Shutesbury to classification. In the event the assessors need additional help, specifically with chapter land applications, training, classification, I suggest you contact Diane Bishop, retiring director of assessing in East Long Meadow. So reading that and listening to Howard, I think if we held out, if nothing happens before January, perhaps Diane would come up here up to 20 hours a week. I don't know, but I do think it's worthwhile that Howard communicate with Roy about that.
I'm confused then.
I am too.
What,
Because that sentence says between David's work, Leslie's administration, our evaluation work, completion.
That takes care of the contract to get the FY26.
Yeah, but if I'm not
But
here,
David's
what
not
do
going to
I
be
for?
here.
But
Okay.
what he's referring to is David and I are going to get the values,
Yeah,
our building permits and new growth done before June 30th. That's what he's referring to with
Oh,
David.
Okay,
And-
so
And David said, oh, I'll stay on until July, which, thank you.
well, we
right,
can-
Leslie, but from August until December, filling out all the LA forms and doing the tax recap,
Mhm.
are you saying you'd be
Roy's-
okay doing all of that until December?
no, Roy is
I'm
doing
at-
that. Roy is doing that. That's what we're paying him for.
No, not for the LA four.
Not the
No.
tax recap and the LA 4 and the LA 13.
He's,
Oh,
he's doing a
okay.
little
Oh.
section of it.
Well,
No,
Roy's gonna
he's
do,
just doing the valuation of utilities and personal property. He's not doing any of that calculation and any of that technical work that's done to calculate our tax rate. And
Thank
if
you.
He's not
David's
gonna sit
not
down and
here,
talk.
it's all on Leslie.
Right.
he's not gonna sit
No.
down and talk with the boards and work
No.
our way through the recap sheet. And Gail and all the rest of us will sit down and do that. He's not gonna do that.
It's,
Unless,
well, it
well,
says,
he could,
it says,
and no doubt he could, but
Yeah,
okay,
he's saying that Diane Bishop might be able to.
but not
Answer
till the new year.
questions.
And yes,
So we have
Right.
we'd have a 5-month gap. And that is the most
Huge.
crucial 5 months of an assessing office's work. I'm not saying what you do during the year isn't important. I'm just saying, as far as setting the tax rate and getting us in a position to collect money from the taxpayer, that happens in those 5 months that we would have nobody other than one person who's,
Yes, who's not trained in it.
yeah, who's
Yes.
already sounding an alarm on that.
yeah,
okay. This is in the contract. This is, I'm going to quote from Roy's contract, okay? This is not his letter to us. This is a
Okay.
contract.
yeah, we've got a copy of that
Project,
too.
project tasks, update real and personal property values, review sales, create preliminary sales and analysis, LA3. Vision cost and depreciation tables will need updating to estimates of market value using calendar years sales. He does that already. Create and submit LA3 and LA4. Submit LA13 and DOR certification liaison. I think his intent here, and I can confirm this with him, I think here is the idea is that his contract will get us through the recap. I think that's what he's telling us here.
Well, maybe if that's your interpretation, we need to get that from him in something that is totally clear.
Well, I want to ask David, from what Howard just read, there's still other things that need to be done that's not getting done. Is that correct?
yeah. It was fair enough for doing the LA4 and the 13. That's fair enough in the LA3. But we're still gonna have to sit down with the different boards and committees and sort out what goes on the recap and what the budget's gonna be, what the levy limit's gonna be, how much you have to spend. And you're gonna have to sign off on that recap. We work with Gail and whoever other departments are gonna put money on the recap sheet.
Mhm.
And we coordinate everybody signing off on the recap sheet.
If we hired an
Okay.
administrative assessor, how many hours a week would it take to do that work?
Well, I mean, if you got the 1 week, you could do it in a week, but you can't get everybody at the one
Yeah.
time.
Well, should I just call Roy and ask him whether he can do the recap for us?
Yeah, you could do that.
If he can do all the
Okay.
administrative assessor's work, I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter to me which order you call them in.
Because, I mean, I thought, I mean, all of that work has to be done by, at the latest, I'm going to make up a date, October 15th. Reasonable?
Yeah,
Okay. October 15th is not that far away. Okay. I don't think we can. I think I should call Roy and find out if he can do it because it's coming up and right now he's
Okay.
the solidest. Let me find
yeah, I
out.
think that's probably a good idea, yeah.
And so does that include the work that Leslie is saying that she's doing and does not want to be doing anymore because it's really not in her job?
That comes
Could I
later.
just add, that doesn't include, first of all, Ellen's gonna be pushing, she always pushes. But it doesn't include, and David says it's easy and I can do it, and I know I can, but it's one more thing on the plate is getting those means tested applications in, reviewed, approved, those values changed in vision so that it reflects the amount of exemption they get, negotiating all that with the select board. It doesn't improve. There's a step here that is, the step is getting the assessor's information to Vadar, which is the company that then produced the bills that go to Ellen.
Mhm.
I have tried to do that before, but I've given it to David, the whole thing, because it's just, it's a complicated thing. And if you end up with mistakes, you're gonna be getting abatement because we sent out the wrong bills to somebody. We had all the septic loan ones one year we had to abate because the wrong button got pushed or something. I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff that goes on in addition to people wondering how am I going to get my rebate for my abatement? Is that going to be a check or in the mail, or is the state sending it?
This is not including the handling of the motor vehicle excise.
Yeah,
So-
there's a ton of stuff to do. So we
so-
need to push.
So
Push, push, push.
if I may,
Right, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I would suggest that if Roy Bishop is willing to do that work for us, then before we ask him to create a contract, he visits with us.
Mhm.
And we make it very clear what he would be doing and what we would be doing. And that's the opportunity for Leslie to communicate to him where the line is. There's all these things that happen, and where's the line, who does what, so that we can make sure that we're setting this up the way we want to, because I don't have the information to make all those decisions. Leslie clearly does. And so if he's willing, well, you know what you're doing that you don't think you should be doing. Well, that's
Right,
fine, of
yeah,
course.
and David,
David,
too.
I would love to have you involved in that. No question in my mind. But Leslie, you know some of those things that you're doing that you had not done in the past, and you only took on because of all our turnover. And we see how far Roy can take that stuff and what that costs us. I mean, there's a lot to think about, but we have to communicate clearly with whoever it is. So if Roy says, I'm willing to do this, I can give you a wide range of service, then let's get him in here and talk. And if he
Right.
says, I can only do so much, and it looks like Leslie's still going to be in the same place she is, then I think we should be talking to the other guys and try to have that same conversation.
But I think we should be doing all at the same time. I mean, because
Yes,
time is of the
yes.
essence. We've got to get the ads out. We've got to contact I want to call it RBG,
Call them both.
whatever. Yeah,
Call them both and let's try and play them off
yeah,
each other.
and we've got to get the ads.
no, 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 no. That I
Why
won't do.
not?
I don't play people. I do not
Well,
play
no,
people
but
off
it's-
against each other.
you got
I don't do
contractors
that.
who want a contract and they bid.
I don't do that. Get somebody
That's
else.
business.
I don't play people off against each other, period.
Well,
I deal with one person, I get a price, then I find out if the price works, and if the price doesn't work,
well,
I go
that's
to
fine.
somebody
So,
else.
call Roy. If you want to call Roy first,
Okay.
I'm okay with it, but we need to call somebody and see
Yeah.
what our options are other than what we're already doing with the search.
Yeah, that's what I want. But there's two separate issues that I have to address with Roy. One is the short-term issue. Can he get us through the recap? Because I was under the impression that what Roy was proposing to do was do everything to get us through the recap. And David is telling me, no, that's not true. There are things that are left out of the contract to get us through the recap. That's the short-term question, and I think it needs to be addressed quickly.
And Howard,
That's the one I want to address now.
right, Howard, and that's why I like the idea of calling the consultants that David works for, because they do the full service. And we know if they're willing to take us on, which we don't think they are, and we'll probably get a quick no and we'll be done with them. But if they say, yeah, we're willing to, then we know they can do all of it. And we just need to sit down with them and work it out.
And
And we don't know that with Roy.
we can continue the current contract we already have with Roy.
Yes.
I mean, we're not saying goodbye to
that
him
piece.
at all. I mean, that's a good deal.
Okay. So okay, in that case, we would sign the contract with Roy for FY26. And he would do the things for us. But
And
we
he's
might
also-
but we could contract with RRG. And would there be overlap between the two?
Well, RRG we would say to RRG, we don't need you to do personal property
Right.
and utility evaluations.
We've got
We've
this
got that
covered.
covered. I'm
Okay,
sure they'll
we
be
can
okay
do
with
that.
that.
For
I'm
this
sure
year.
they'll be okay with
Okay.
it.
Okay.
That's not unusual. We worked with Dwayne Adams over in Ware. He did what Roy's talking about here, the LA3, the LA4, and we did everything else. But he did those separately, separate contracts. So it's not unusual.
Okay.
Okay, so I will get in touch with RRG either Friday or Monday.
And
And-
Howard,
and- Sorry.
I was just gonna say, and Howard, if they give you a flat no and are not even interested in talking with us, then I would say, would you be comfortable then calling Roy Bishop? Because at that point, now it makes sense to go to Roy.
But we still
That's
are
fine. Yeah,
advertising.
Oh yeah, no,
That's,
we already proved that. We're stuck
okay.
with that.
That's
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so after I call or I'll call RRG in the next few days. And if I get a flat no from RRG, I should just go ahead and call Roy.
Mhm.
Okay. And RRG, okay, fine. Okay. And RRG has to get us through the recap because
What I like about RRG is they do this. This is their business. It will be
Yeah.
more than
Right.
the recap. This could be a
No,
long-term
but
arrangement.
Yeah. And it would
yeah, but
take,
it also has to be a short-term arrangement. It also has to get us through
Well, yeah,
the
certainly
recap
we're
in
thinking about,
October. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
I
Okay,
am not
right.
putting
Okay.
my cards in the basket that this woman in East Long Meadow is going to be able to, when she retires, take us on. She might be willing to, but I'm thinking in the longer run, let's try and find somebody who's willing to commit to us for
Mhm.
more than just 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's good to know she's there.
And-
And certainly if in a month from now, we're not making any progress, she would be a person we would try to entice to come here and work for us.
All
But
right.
Well, she's
Can I
not
just
going to,
say
she
one
doesn't
thing?
want to, she doesn't want to work for us. She doesn't want to be a salary. She doesn't want to be a salaried or an hourly
well, all right,
employee.
right,
She wants to
whatever.
be a
I'm just
contractor.
to do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, David.
That's all right, no problem. If RRG did decide to go with it, I would not be the person that's here because I do not want anyone to think that I'd be looking for more money by taking money out of your through RRG. I don't want that, and that's not what I again is. I might supervise someone, but I would not be the person here.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Yep. Understood.
Okay.
I don't believe that you think that was why you put in your notice anyways. I never had that thought.
not at all.
I know, but some other people in town may say something. We
You
don't
know,
want
you're
that
right. You're smart. You've been in municipal politics long enough.
too long.
So we have a plan.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. We do.
And-
Yes, we do.
I
I
was
think it's a
only-
darn good one.
Okay.
I'm not sure how the plan is exactly, but I would say that the year that we were without anybody as of September 26th, FY 23, Roy did this. He did everything magically, but we weren't. I saw him one time. And I walked in and he was finishing up and he walked out. He's not is going to be like David. He's not going to be like, I'm hoping someone from RRG that gives you a little more time. He was just like, whew. Took me a month after he left to understand the piece of paper he handed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is, you're
Okay.
talking something different now.
Yeah,
So
I'm
did
just
he
saying,
do,
we need more
did
than
he do
Roy.
did he do the recap that year?
So
23, did he do?
you did it?
I've done the last three.
Okay, no, David did it. Turns out
Oh, okay.
David must have volunteered it.
Back, I mean, I think I started with sometime at the end of October with Becky.
Okay, I apologize to David especially.
Okay.
Okay, so by next week, we
Okay.
should have
So,
the answer from RRG, the approval to get the ads in the paper. And
I've already made a note to post the assessors for Tuesday, May 20th. Just in case you guys show up.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you
Okay.
like us to come to town meeting? I mean, town select board meeting?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
if you don't show up, that's fine, but
Well, things change, that is for sure. And
Yeah.
there's a new arvinitis in this world, so I
Oh,
don't know what my schedule's going to be
Hey.
like.
oh gosh.
so how many is this?
Mazel tov.
Alex had a baby. Alex's wife had a baby on Monday.
Oh, my
Well,
goodness.
You didn't know he was going to be a dad. I guess I never told you, did I, Leslie?
No,
Yeah.
but it's great news. What did they have?
They had a boy, little boy,
And his name
Vern.
is
Vern.
what?
Vern. Yep.
Vern.
D-E-R-N-E?
Think Jules Vern.
Jules Vern. Oh, what a
It's
great
Vern
name.
Alexander Federico Arvanetis.
What a
Holy
great
moly.
name.
Federico is her father's name.
I hope he's
This
not
is
a
a
professional football player.
I hope so. That'd be good.
That is a child of the world, that's for sure.
Oh,
I'm
I'll tell you what,
thrilled.
his parents, his mother is, yeah,
Yeah.
we're happy.
Mazel tov.
It's awesome. So we're
Yes.
hoping to go to San Francisco. We just don't know when they're going to give us the green light to come out and see the baby.
Has to be after town meeting.
Well, you know what? If they say,
Family
we
comes
got,
first.
I mean, just to see the little guy last night for the first time on FaceTime
Oh.
was just, so we just are dying to go there.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a grandparent knows. I mean, anyways, so that's the
Amen.
only reason that that's the only thing right now that could affect me. So the 20th is the meeting. Okay. Select board.
Okay.
And I'll look at their agenda and make sure I'm there before the time that they have allotted for us.
I'm gonna slip on, folks. I got somewhere to be.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, David, so
Sure,
much.
have a good night.
This has been
Thank you,
really
David.
helpful.
Okay.
Yep.
And Leslie, you deserve a medal for all you have done for this town. I know, when everything fell apart, when what's his face left, and you stepped up to the plate, and you're on mute, so that's okay.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
You can't say anything.
I don't know how that
Okay.
happened, but
It
thank you
happened
for
by me
saying
by
that.
mistake. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
over and above, and you're tired. This isn't going to last forever. You've got things to do.
And it's not so much that it's not going to last forever, because I hope to, but we do need to be thinking about the future for this town.
Yes.
And it was stopgap, and as long as we had David, we were still sliding, but it was better than nothing.
Oh,
Yeah.
David
And I
is the
have to
best we
give
could do.
Becky more credit than she may have ever gotten for all she
Yeah.
did to stand up and support me through that whole year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good.
No.
So
No.
is Brennan, you said that Brennan might be slipping, you might
I
be
asked
slipping
him
some of his
again
work.
today. He said, no, he really likes his 32 hours. He's got a girlfriend
Okay.
in New Hampshire.
Okay.
I'm lifting every stone that I come across.
Well, let's wish
But-
Howard luck. I
Does,
echo everything April said. Leslie, can't thank you enough for all that you've been doing. And we know it's a tough market for assessors, so we need to keep working on this to get a long-term solution.
Yes, yes. And listen to this, because it's not just Shutesbury. And I said to David, he's gone now, but the other day I said, I think we should be telling our DOR representative that this work is complex. And Howard and I had a conversation that there's no opportunity when you're getting out of high school to go into community college to learn how to be an assessor. There's no training that anybody wants to move up the ladder. It's a closed system. They should offer it. Don't know what should happen.
My hope is that RRG is grooming people to become experts in this field so that they can expand their capacity. So at least then the model would be in the long run is there's organizations that can provide the service to the towns, because the towns just can't hire, nobody's interested in doing it on their own. But if they can work for a company that provides good benefits, pays them well, and centralizing it seems like the way it's got to be done, given
Yeah.
what we see with the market.
And as a clerk, I don't feel like I can sort through Kevin's stuff in this office. I haven't touched the administrative assessor's files because I'm just the clerk. And I don't feel comfortable with speaking to DOR about the problem because it is such a bad situation. They've hired somebody to try and solve it. And I'd love to talk to that person, but I'm just the clerk and I really don't have authority to speak to anybody. It's been a balancing act for me the whole time. Like
Yeah.
the mapping, I just finished mapping this year.
never did the mapping before. And I don't really have authorization to do it, but it had to get done. So
Actually, I can't make the meeting next Tuesday.
that's okay. Not even,
We got FinCom.
I
Yeah.
know we do, but
but
they were
they're
at
not-
5 o'clock. Maybe we can get early.
Oh, if it's earlier, yes.
If we could
Yes,
be,
you're right.
yeah,
we'll see. I
All right,
just
we'll
am
see. Yeah,
posting
if
it
it's
just in
before
case.
6:30, I'll be there.
Yeah, so
If it's-
talk to Haley about setting the agenda so that it's early.
It might already be set. Let me take a look.
maybe we
She can
could
change it.
put pressure on.
Yeah, or ask the select board if they could, yeah, if they can move it around.
Hmm.
So select board, actually, they're not posted yet for Tuesday.
Even better.
Yeah, maybe, well, it's better and it's not better. We can't go out and fire until they say yes. So I'll keep an eye on them and see what their agenda looks like. In fact, I'm gonna make a phone call to Haley. I was gonna reach out to her, so I'm gonna put that on a list of things to talk about. Can we get assessors on the agenda early for May 20th? Okay, I will try and see if I can work with her on that.
Okay. We will get through this.
Oh, we will.
Okay.
Yeah, this is life.
The finish line is gonna be in sight.
Yep, yep.
Hopefully there's no brick wall there.
Does
Does
Thank
Grace
you.
still have an assistant?
Yes.
Yes. Don't go
Would the
there.
assistant don't go there? Okay. I won't go there.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to go back. I need a second. I'm sorry.
What, I think we're almost at the end of the agenda, right?
We are,
Yeah.
but I looked at the select board schedule and I have to move back to ours. Okay, the next, we're done with that item, right? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the May 7th email request from the administrative assistant for recommendations for assessors department reappointments. Does anybody have to be reappointed now?
Yes.
Leslie, you would know, or
I should have
Who has
put
to
it in
be-
the email, but I was running late. George is up. Please, George, will you prior to this current administrative office, we never asked. We just put them back on because you ask this
'Cause
question and
And
You
you get a
get a-
bad answer.
you might not like the answer. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
so George is up for 3 years. We're putting him on whether unless he puts up a stink. I'm on for
George,
1
you
year.
want to do it or not?
As long as I
George,
live
you
in
wanna do it?
town, I will do it.
Yep, thank you
Okay.
very much. And I'm up
Okay.
for 1 year, and I told David it's going after the discussion about hiring, because if you guys didn't want to move forward, and then I would say, no, I'm not going to, but I will take a year at a time. And
Thank you.
hopefully someone will be on board who can run this office by June 26th. And that's for everybody's good, because brain.
Well,
I
and
know.
Okay.
we talked about this, you've got other plans in your life and we can't,
Yeah.
you're a dedicated person who won't let us, who would never
No.
leave us in a lurch, but that's not fair to you.
Plus, I love it. I knew I got up this morning. I thought,
Yes.
I'm going to get those maps off today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And none of that happened because everything else comes up that changes. There's
Yeah.
just, yeah. Anyway, so thank
Okay.
you. Can I take that as a recommendation to the select board that you'd like me to be appointed for a new year?
I move that George be reappointed for another 3 years.
3 years.
They're 3-year appointments, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
They are. I insist.
I-
Okay, somebody. Second.
Second.
Okay, I vote aye.
Everyone I say.
Steiner.
So
The motion
that's gonna-
passes.
so
Welcome
that's
back,
gonna go to
George.
select board and I don't have to do anything to make that happen.
No.
No, I'll let
Now
him
you'll get
know.
a letter.
Okay.
Okay. Items not anticipated 48 hours
Did
prior
that
to the meeting.
include me? Are you
Yeah.
also in?
You. Oh, yeah, we're off. Yeah. I move that we, I move that we reappoint recommend that the select board reappoint Leslie for another year.
Second.
I vote aye.
Everyone I say.
Steiner.
Thank
The
you.
motion passes.
You're
Welcome back,
welcome.
Leslie. The next item on the agenda are items not anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
Yes.
Any such thing?
Well,
Anything?
I had meant, now that David's gone, we've already talked about this. I sent you the MDM form, which is the report to the Gateway that we got our report in on time, so we will get our reimbursements for exemptions. I thought David would be gone on June 30th when I put this in, but at least by the next meeting, I talked with him about it and he said most clerks already have access to Gateway. I was worrying that some of these forms that George is talking about may need administrative assessors approvals in Gateway, and without David, David said, just have Grace add you in to Gateway. And I thought it should go before the board. So we can talk about that next time with David, but I'm asking you, unless we get somebody else, I would like to have that for something like getting these forms in. He was supposed to come in and do it. Sandy was sick. And he did it from home, but I was prepared to do it. But those things come up. And
Can David, so two things. One is we need to authorize you to be able to get into Gateway. Is that true?
to
Or
authorize,
solely for
to
that purpose.
sign off for assessors, not for you folks, but to sign off for the department where David can sign off. And I wouldn't use it unless somebody said, we need you to go in and do this, like Roy or something.
When
But-
would you have to start doing that if we were in that situation?
Well, if we don't have David,
Oh, okay. So that's stuff that's going on now and things that need to be approved, not just during recap period in.
exactly. The MDM was April 30th.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. You did
And
say
we would
that.
have
Okay.
lost all of our exemption money from the state. And David always said to me, you could just use my password. And I said, I don't, I'm.
No.
No, thank you.
Okay, so
But that's for the
I
next
move-
meeting, because that's a vote.
we
Well,
can vote.
okay,
I move that we authorize Leslie to have her own password to get into Gateway.
I'll second.
I vote aye.
Now, but Leslie can't you get into Gateway now, Leslie?
No, she doesn't have her own
I-
password.
yeah,
That's the
I
point.
don't have a password. I can't sign off. What I can see is that first opening page, any of those reports, I can, that you don't have to use your password to get into, I can see.
Oh, I see. Because I know we all have access to Gateway.
Yes,
Yes,
you do,
You're supposed to.
Right.
You're
And
supposed
I
to.
assume that you
Yes,
do
you
too,
do.
Leslie.
because the administrative assessor was always in place. I never
Okay,
did.
all right. I get it. I always
And-
assumed that you had it. That's
Have you
why I
never
was like-
have you never signed off on forms during recap, during tax setting season? It comes.
Yes, Jeff Quackenbush and I did stuff, not in recap, but
I'm
the
asking George. though.
MDM.
Oh, I
I'm
have.
asking
No,
George.
I know I have. I know I can't, but I was.
Yeah, then in that case, you can get into Gateway. That's what getting into Gateway does.
But I thought Leslie could. That was my point. I thought Leslie
Oh, I
was,
see. Okay,
had
okay.
the same
Okay,
ability, and
okay.
I'm discovering now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm ready to vote.
I am
So
too.
I thought we did. Okay, I
No,
vote
we
aye.
just seconded.
Okay, I vote aye.
Arvin, aye.
And Steinite.
I was speaking in the
Okay.
comment period.
Okay, sorry. And Leslie, that's enough, that authorization is enough that Grace will now do this for you?
Yes,
Okay, fine, that's
I
good.
think so. I
Um,
haven't talked to Grace. David told me most towns, the clerks do it. And because I said to him, can you have more than one person, or should we try to do this for June 30th? And he said, you can have as many as you want. So I will talk that through with Grace, because she's the one who does it, and maybe David's misunderstanding. But
Yeah. She-
one step at a time.
Yeah.
First step handled.
Okay,
Next thing is, just to remind you folks, I think I sent it out Thursday, June 12th at 10 a.m. is the Next, Franklin County Assessors Association Spring Roundtable event in Irving Town Hall. They're very informative. It's very nice to meet people. It's free and they serve good refreshments. So keep it in mind. I know
Okay.
there's lots of other more exciting things
Yeah.
to do than go sit with assessors, but
I'll be on the,
We
you've
would
got it.
benefit from it.
yeah, I'll be on
Yeah.
the Cape, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Oh,
I don't-
what a darn thing. I'm
I
so
know, I'm
sorry.
so sorry.
Uh,
Leslie, could you send this invitation to me in just a separate email, just this, so I can flag that email?
yes,
And I will keep it available and reply by June 10th if I know I can go.
okay.
I may not know that I can go for another couple weeks,
Right.
because that's probably when I'm gonna be in San Francisco, because they really kind of wanted to wait a month. But if I'm around, I will go.
I think you'd enjoy it.
Well, yeah, I think I should do it anyways, but I'm sure you know, no, you go to these things and you think I know it all, or it's going to be boring, and you walk out of it and you just have all this
interesting.
new information.
It's really is that way. And George, to tell the truth, at the last meeting, they were only like 15 had reserved and there was about 25 of us there. So even if you don't make a reservation and you wake up and think, oh, I can go, any of you, just
Okay,
go.
that's good to know.
I
So
will
if
be
it's-
going.
Yeah, if you could
Two.
just send that to me, well, actually, I'll just
I
flag
will.
this. I'll flag this meeting email that you sent, and I'll just keep it on this top.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, and I'll
Okay.
just remind myself.
Hmm.
And we're probably going to be talking before then, anyways.
Yep.
I hope so. And then
I
the
do
other
too.
thing, the other thing was just the department head meeting. Haley is running alternate month department head meetings. And as far as I can see, I don't think anybody looked ahead at the calendar because the next one may be July 8th, but it's around 4th of July. September 2nd is the day after Labor Day and November 4th is Election Day. So the dates will change, but she's holding department head meetings, and that doesn't mean department heads. You're all more than welcome. I'll just let you know when they are and
Thank you.
go from there.
Yeah, well, and if we have any particular issues we want to talk about with her,
Yep.
I don't want to go to those if we have nothing to say.
It's kind of like the select board, all board meetings. If you're first in line, you get to tell everybody what your needs are, and after that, not so much. I don't know
Well
if they
said.
still do them, but you guys are all old enough, you've been through them.
Yes, yes, I remember, yes.
Okay, so I won't even bother to tell you what happened. There was nothing that applies to assessors except that she is holding them, and I will let you know. And
Yeah, and if we
that's,
have something we think we need to do or accomplish, and that's the forum for it, then that's a different story.
yep. So that's all. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
your work.
Easy to do. It comes naturally, Leslie.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we need to set the next meeting date?
Yeah.
Okay, and so Leslie, I'm guessing we don't have a lot of administrative stuff to do soon, but maybe we want to be concerned about the job search and so on and so forth, and maybe get that talked about sooner rather than later.
Yep. So we've
Um,
got May 20th, and then what's the next one after May 20th?
May 20th is select board is what you're saying, May
Yes.
20th,
Well, but it's assessors too.
right? But it's not like we can have an assessors meeting there. That's why we had this one, because we didn't want to do it there. Do you want to do this in 2 weeks? Just to get caught up. I can tell you what happened with RRG and whether I had to go to Roy, or I can do that. No, actually, there's no other way I can do it.
Yeah, that's probably right. And we're going to have lots of questions. So we're going to want to talk about it. And we don't
Yeah.
have to have the meeting if there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
Um,
Hope there's something
yeah,
to talk.
so let's book for today is the 14th. We can book for the
27th.
28th.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah,
We can, we'll book for the 28th, and I'll tell Leslie if I have absolutely nothing to report,
Oh, 28th
which is
doesn't work.
impossible
28th doesn't work.
because,
28th is a,
Is what?
for everybody or you.
It's right before town meeting. It's really
it's April,
important.
it's April and me because we're having that's the night of our budget hearing. Our
Yeah.
budget
Okay, fine.
presentation. Can we
Can
do it
we-
like,
We
can we
do
do
the
it
5th.
Thursday?
I
Tuesday
can.
or Thursday that week?
No, we cannot. I'm away. What about Wednesday, the 5th?
I'm out of town.
Wednesday,
Oh, yeah, I could do that. I could
June
do
5th?
that.
Wednesday, it's not the 5th, it's the 4th.
It's the 4th, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can do that.
then, yeah, I can do that.
And if
Okay.
there's something urgent, like Howard's got a fish on the hook, but he needs the assessors to
Reel it
move
in.
forward,
Yes.
Good
can have
analogy.
an
Yeah,
emergency.
then
We can
just,
figure it
then
out.
we'll schedule one.
we'll do it on a Saturday morning, or we'll figure out something.
Yep, we'll
Yep.
do it
We'll make it
anytime.
work.
And chances are, we're all gonna be on a search committee that would be calling a meeting anyway.
Right.
So
And
search
I-
committees are the same, the same open meeting law applies to search committees, is that true?
Right, but I'm saying it's the same assessors. You wouldn't be able to handle assessors administrative, but I'm saying if you've got someone that says, well, I'm available now, I might not be available. Yeah, I'm just
Well, it would
saying,
have to go, it has to
Yeah,
go
we
through
will
the
be-
select board anyway, so we're kind of like, we're kind of governed by their calendar. In other words, we can't do anything before. They're gonna have a meeting they have meetings every 2 weeks, is that true?
but
I
on May
think they have them every
20th,
day.
we're gonna meet with them and they're going
Right.
to give us the go-ahead and hopefully assign us as the search committee.
Yeah,
And then if something comes up, the search committee, it could even meet on a Saturday morning or whenever you aren't away. And then say, make a recommendation to the select board, be ready.
Yeah.
The select board, we want to appoint this person on such and such at your next meeting.
that's right, before they get
Yeah.
away.
Right.
So
Okay.
I've got May 20th at the select board and I've got May 28th at 6:30.
No,
No, you don't have
No,
May 28th.
June
You have
That's, it changed. I'm
June
sorry,
4th. You
June
have June
4th.
4th.
And,
Oh, okay.
and if there's an emergency, I will just poll you guys and we'll find time to meet.
Okay.
I want to see baby
All right.
pictures. I bet he's adorable, just like his
Okay,
daddy.
He's tiny. He was 4 pounds 11 ounces.
It's a little one.
So, well, it wasn't a great pregnancy. And so there's usually 3 blood vessels from placenta
Can
to
I-
the baby.
You may want to end the meeting and then I want to hear.
That's
And
right.
the meeting.
I'll stop
Yeah.
recording.